Hi friends, welcome to English Study Point. Today in this video lecture, I am going to discuss Edmund Spenser's The Epithalamion. Ye learn sisters which have oftentimes been to me adding others to adorn. So the speaker addresses the muses, the goddesses of inspiration in the arts and sciences. He acknowledges their past assistance in creating poetry and elevating others' verses, suggesting he has benefited from their inspiration previously, whom ye thought worthy of your graceful rhymes. So the speaker references those poets or figures the muses deemed deserving of their divine favor, highlighting the significance of inspiration and artistic merit in poetry, that even the greatest did not greatly scorn to hear their names sung in your simple lays. So he suggests that even the most esteemed individuals found joy in being celebrated through poetry. It emphasizes the universal appeal and power of poetic praise regardless of social standing. But joyed in their praise, um, and when ye list your own mishaps to moon. So the muses take pleasure in their own laments, indicating that creativity emerges from personal sorrow or experiences. The muses are portrayed not only as creators but as feeling beings that can express both joy and sorrow, which death or love or fortune's wrecks did raise. So the speaker lists themes that serve as inspiration for poetry, loss, love, and the disasters life can bring. So these elements resonate with the human experience, suggesting poetry's ability to articulate deep emotions. Your string your string could soon to sadder tenor tone and teach the woods and waters to lament your doleful direment. So the muses are depicted as having the power to evoke emotions in nature itself, with their music affecting the environment. This line exemplifies the connection between art and nature and suggests that their sorrow could resonate far and wide. Now, lay those sorrowful complaints aside and having all your heads with garland crowned. So at this point, the speaker urges the muses to set aside their mourning and celebrate instead. The imagery of crowns of garlands invokes a festive atmosphere and the spirit of celebration typical of weddings. Help me mine own love's praises to resound. So he requests their assistance in singing praises for his own beloved. This reflects the personal nature of the poem. It transitions from journal themes of sorrow to a specific celebration of love. Nay, let the same of any be envied. So the speaker desires his praise to be unique and free from envy. This indicates an awareness of the competitiveness inherent in poetic expression and personal achievement. So Orpheus did for his own bride, so I unto myself along with sing. So the mention of Orpheus alludes to the mythological figure known for his enchanting music that could even charm the gods. So the comparison indicates a yearning for a similar personal connection and celebration in his own marriage. The woods shall to me answer and my echo ring. So the speaker anticipates a natural response to his celebration, hoping that the beauty of his love will resonate through the woods, creating an immersive celebratory atmosphere. This line conveys the idea that true love and poetic expression can transcend ordinary experience. Early before the world's light giving lamp. So this line introduces the early morning with the world's light giving lamp, referring to the sun, symbolizing new beginnings and illumination. The use of early suggests that something significant is about to take place. His golden beam upon the hills dot spread. So the imagery of the sun's golden rays spreading over the hills evokes a sense of warmth and positivity. The use of golden beam reinforces the idea of light as a symbol of joy and prosperity. Having dispersed the night's uncheerful dim, so the sun's light dispels the gloom of night, which signifies the end of darkness and sadness. Uncheerful damp highlights the oppressive nature of night, suggesting that the coming day brings hope and cheer. Do ye awake and with fresh lusty head. So the speaker calls upon others, perhaps the readers or certain individuals, to wake up with a fresh and lively disposition. Lusty head means vigor and enthusiasm, indicating that the day ahead is full of potential. Go to the bower of my beloved love. So the speaker directs the audience to the bower, a rustic dwelling of his beloved, emphasizing the intimate and personal nature of love, referring to her as my beloved love, reiterates the depth of his affection. My truest turtle dove. So, this term turtle dove symbolizes fidelity and devotion in love. It suggests the beloved's gentle and loving nature, reinforcing theme of faithful love. Then we see that bid her away, for Hymen is awake. So the speaker urges others to wake his beloved because Hymen, the god of marriage, is also awake and ready for the celebration of their union. This personification heightens the sense of occasion. And long since ready forth his mask to move. So this line suggests that preparations for the wedding, the mask, have been underway. The mask is a form of entertainment indicating festivity and joy associated with marriage, with his bright tade that flames with many a flake. So Hymen's bright tade represents the illumination and joy of marriage, while flames with many a flake conveys a sense of energy and excitement surrounding the wedding and many a bachelor to wait on him. So the image of bachelors waiting for Hymen signifies the means camaraderie, support, a sort of friendship support and celebration amongst the unmarried friends of the bride and groom, indicating a larger social gathering. In their fresh garments trim. So the description of their fresh garments connotes readiness and festivity. The use of trim suggests that guests are well prepared and dressed for the joyous occasion. Bid her awake therefore, and soon her dight. So the speaker continues to encourage his beloved to wake and prepare. Dight means to adorn or prepare, indicating a sense of urgency for the festivities ahead. For lo, the wished day is come at last. So the day of the wedding has finally arrived, a long-awaited event. The use of wish suggests that this day has been a subject of hope and desire for the couple, that shall for all the pains and sorrows pass. So the speaker acknowledges that this day represents the culmination of all their past struggles and pain, suggesting transformation from hardship to joy. Pay to her usury of long delight. So the metaphor of usury here refers to the idea of paying back for the emotional investment, suggesting that the joy of the wedding will repay her with happiness after all she has endured. And whilst she doth her dight. So while the beloved prepares herself, the speaker continues to express his thoughts and gratitude, indicating a loving presence during the preparations. Do ye to her of joy and solace sing. So the speaker asks others to sing songs of joy and comfort to the bride, suggesting a communal participation in the festivities and the uplifting nature of love, that all the woods may answer and your echo ring. So the invitation for the woods to respond indicates harmony with nature and symbolizes that the joy of the wedding should resonate far and wide. The echo evokes a sense of celebration that reverberates through the environment. Bring with you all the nymphs that you can hear. So the speaker calls upon nymphs, mythological water spirits, signifying beauty and grace. It sets a tone of enchantment and celebration, both of the rivers and the forest green. So the nymphs from rivers and green forests symbolizes the natural beauty surrounding the event. It emphasizes the connection between nature and love, and of the sea that neighbors to her near. So ocean nymphs are included, linking the speaker's love with vastness and depth, enhancing the idea of universal beauty, all with gay garlands goodly well beseen. So the nymphs are to bring garlands representing festivity and adornment, suggesting the wedding will be a joyous occasion. And let them also with them bring in hand. So the nymphs are not just passive participants, they are active in the celebration, bringing gifts to honor the bride. Another gay garland. So the repetition of garland emphasizes its importance. This is not just any garland, but one specifically for the speaker's beloved. For my fair love of lilies and of roses. So the beloved is associated with lilies, purity, and roses means love, both traditional symbols of beauty. This denotes her characteristics and the nature of their love. Bound through love wise with a blue silk ribbon. So the garland is tied with a blue silk ribbon, symbolizing fidelity and love, reinforcing theme of romantic devotion. And let them make great store of bridal poses. So the speaker asks for an abundance of bridal decorations, which creates a visual image of festivity and preparation for the wedding. And let them each bring store of other flowers. So the request for various flowers signifies abundance and richness in their love and the celebration surrounding it. To deck the bridal bowers. So, bridal bowers refers to the bridal chamber, a place of intimacy and romance, indicating that this is a sacred space for love. And let the ground wear as her foot shells tread. So, the speaker expresses a desire for the ground to be prepared for the bride, emphasizing her importance and the celebration of her entrance. For fear the stones her tender foot should wrong. So there is a protective tone here. The speaker is concerned for the bride's comfort, reflecting love and care. This also highlights her delicacy. Be strewed with fragrant flowers all along. So flowers symbolize beauty and fragrance which enhance the atmosphere of the wedding. It also indicates a natural decorum. And dyed like the discolored mead. So dyed suggests a pattern or variegated effect. Comparing the flower strewn part to a beautiful meadow, enhancing the visual splendor, which done though at her chamber door away. So after the preparations are complete, the instruction to wait at the bride's chamber door hints at anticipation and the importance of timing in the ceremony. For she will waken straight. So the speaker expresses confidence that the bride will soon awaken, implying that the moment of marriage is imminent. The while do ye this song unto her sing. So the speaker instructs to sing, turning the poem into a celebratory song that will fill the air, contributing to the joyous atmosphere. The wood shall to you answer and your echo ring. So this line indicates that nature will reflect the joy and beauty of the occasion. Echoes symbolize the harmony between the couple's love and the surroundings. Now here we see ye nymphs of Mula which with careful heed. So the nymphs symbolic of nature and femininity are invoked as guardians of the river Mula. The adverb careful suggests their attentiveness and dedication to the aquatic life. The silver scaly trouts do tend full well. So this line highlights the nymph's role in nurturing the silver scaly trouts. The fish symbolize purity and beauty, and their presence enhances the idyllic setting of nature. And greedy pikes which use therein to feed. So pikes, predatory fish, contrast with the gentle trouts. The description greedy adds a sense of natural hierarchy and predation, reflecting the balance of the ecosystem. Those trouts and pikes, all others do excel. So the parenthetical remark elevates the status of trouts and pikes, suggesting they are superior to other types of fish, further emphasizing their beauty and importance in the poem's setting. And ye likewise, which give the rushy lake. So the poet addresses the nymphs again, shifting focus to another aspect of the natural world. The rushy lake keep suggests protection and caretaking, where none do fishes take. So this line suggests a calm and untapped environment where fishing is absent. It conveys a sense of peace and tranquility in nature, setting the mood for the wedding ceremony. Bind up the locks, the which hang scattered light. So the locks refers to natural elements, perhaps leaves or flowers that resemble scattered hair. This imagery evokes a sense of beauty and elegance, emphasizing the decorum needed for the wedding. And in his waters which your mirror make. So the nymphs are asked to look into the water which reflects their beauty, mirror make. So this line suggests a dual connection between nature and the nymph's grace. Now here we see behold your faces as the crystal bride. The comparison of the nymphs' faces to crystal reinforces the theme of beauty and purity. It suggests that their reflection in the water enhances their luminosity. That when you come, whereas my love doth lie. So the poet calls upon the nymphs to attend to his beloved, indicating that the natural world is intertwined with personal emotions. The lie suggests a resting or eternal peace likely tied to the marital setting. No blemish she may spy. So the poet hopes that the natural beauty fostered by the nymphs will ensure that his bride's appearance remains flawless on her special day. This highlights the theme of idealized beauty and A.K. Lightfoot maids which keep the deer. So the Lightfoot maids are forest nymphs of huntresses, symbolizing agility and freedom. The use of egg adds an archaic touch, emphasizing the poem's timeless quality that on the hoary mountain used to tour. So the mention of hoary mountain, old or ancient mountain, gives a sense of permanence and stability. The word Tovr suggests elevation, thereby linking beauty and strength, and the wild wolves which seek them to devour. So the introduction of wolves signifies danger and the natural order of predation. Here the nymph's protective role becomes apparent as they guard against threats. With your steel darts, do chase from coming near. So the nymphs are equipped with steel darts, showcasing their strength and readiness to confront danger. This active imagery contrasts with the passive beauty of earlier lines. Be also present here. So this line is a direct plea for the nymphs' presence, establishing a connection between the supernatural and the event of the wedding, to help to deck her and to help to sing. So the nymphs are asked to participate in beautifying the bride and contributing to the celebrations. The emphasizes community and shared joy within the natural human realms, so that all the woods may answer and your echo ring. So the poet envisions an echo of joy in the woods, suggesting that nature itself participates in the wedding celebration. The imagery invokes harmony between human emotions and the environment. Now here we see, wake now, my love, awake, for it is time. The speaker urges his beloved to wake, emphasizing the importance of the moment, indicating that something significant is about to occur. The rosy morn long since left Tithon's bed. Rosimond refers to dawn, and Tithonus' bed signifies the identity of Tithonus, who was granted immortality but not eternal youth. This suggests that dawn has arrived, symbolizing renewal and hope, all ready to her silver coach to climb. So the dawn, personified as a woman, is prepared to climb into her silver chariot, a traditional image representing the arrival of the sun in the morning. And Phoebus begins to shew his glorious head. So Phoebus, the sun associated with Apollo, begins to show his glorious head, indicating the sun's rise and the beginning of a new day filled with potential. Hark how the cheerful birds do chaunt their lays. So the speaker calls attention to the cheerful birds singing their songs, establishing a joyful ambience that reflects the beauty of nature. And carol of love's praise. So the birds not only sing but specifically praise love, reinforcing theme of love that permeates the poem. The merry lark his martin sings aloft. So the lark, a bird associated with morning and song, sings its morning hymn high in the sky, signifying joy and the sacredness of the occasion. The thrush replies, the mavis discant plays. So the thrush responds with its song, and the mavis song thrush adds to the musicality, indicating harmony among the birds and by extension among the nature celebrating the union. The quizzle shrills, the ruddock warbles soft. So the quizzle or blackbird sings sharply while the ruddock robin sings softly, presenting a variety of melodies that contribute to the harmonious atmosphere. So goodly all agree with sweet consent. So the speaker observes that the birds sing together in agreement, collectively contributing to the joyful celebration, symbolizing unity and shared happiness to this day's merriment. So the birds' songs underscore the merriment of the day, indicating that their joy reinforces themes of celebration inherent in the wedding. At my dear love, why do ye sleep thus long? So the speaker expresses concern for his beloved, asking why she remains asleep. This reflects a desire for her to partake in the celebration. When meter were that ye should now awake. So the speaker suggests that it is more appropriate for her to awaken at this moment, indicating the importance of being present for the day's festivities. Though await the coming of your joyous May. So the mention of a joyous May refers to the speaker emphasizing their union and the importance of the beloved's presence as the day progresses. And hearken to the bird's love learned song. So the speaker encourages his beloved to listen to the birds singing songs of love, emphasizing the overarching theme of love in nature as well as in their relationship. The dewy leaves among. So the reference to dewy leaves situates the scene in the freshness of early morning, suggesting purity and the awakening of new love. For the day of joy and pleasance to you sing. The speaker notes that the birds sing of joy and delight specifically for his beloved, reinforcing her significance within the celebration, that all the woods them answer and their echo ring. So the woods and echoes responding to the birds indicate that nature itself is participating in the celebration, showing the connection between love, nature and the larger world. Then with this video lecture ends here. Hope this video lecture will help you in your exams. Thank you.